and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so glad that you are here. Please share in the comments where you're from so we can all stay connected. I am located today in Calgary, Alberta, and it is cold and snowy, but it is what it is in the winter. So if you're here right now, you're probably in one of two places. You've either been quietly thinking about starting your own law firm, or you're already seriously considering it, but you don't feel clear on where to begin. And if that's you, you're in the right place. So this is part one of a three-part series over this week and next week on thinking about launching your own law firm. Today is about mindset. Next week, we'll talk about the real reasons lawyers don't go solo and which concerns actually matter. And then in the final session next week, we'll talk about what you actually need to decide first and what can wait. So if you're feeling that pull toward ownership, but you're not sure how to approach it clearly, then stay with me today. This will be especially helpful for you if you are working inside a law firm currently, but wondering what it would look like to build your own. Or maybe you are still in law school, but you already know, or you don't know, whether you want to start your own law firm. You feel capable, but you're unsure about the business side. You don't want to make a rushed decision. What you really want is clarity before you move on. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to think about starting your own law firm before you file paperwork, before you choose software, before you make any big moves. Ideally, you're going to leave at the end with a clearer mindset and a calmer way to approach this decision. If this sounds like where you're at, then let's get right to it. So you're thinking about starting your own law firm, and where you begin is not logistics, it's mindset. Starting your own firm is not just a legal step. It has to be an ownership shift. It isn't just about changing where you work. It's shifting from a contributor to an owner. And what does an owner mean? Revenue responsibility, risk responsibility, operational responsibility, and decision responsibility. When I stepped into managing a law firm years ago, the lawyer had just received approval to go out on his own. I was not stepping into an established machine. I was there right at the beginning. There was no polished intake systems, no refined billing process, no documented workflows, no real financial predictability. And I got to see firsthand what it actually looks like when someone goes from employee to owner. The early stage was not glamorous. It was a lot about learning, adjusting, correcting, figuring things out, making mistakes, learning trust accounting properly, learning cash flow sometimes the hard way. Over 4 years, that firm grew to 4 times its original revenue. Not because everything was perfect, but because decisions became more deliberate. That experience completely changed how I think about other people who want to go solo. So when lawyers say, I don't know where to begin, what that usually means is, I don't know how to think about this. See, law school trained you to think like a lawyer. It did not train you to run a business. And that's not a criticism, it's just the reality. Starting your law firm is not just about filing paperwork, choosing software, and winning in court. Of course, we want those things. It's designed to take responsibility for things like revenue and accounts receivable, operations, risk, client experience, compliance, cash flow, trust reconciliations, software decisions, hiring, vendor contracts, marketing. That is all a big mental shift. And if you're coming from a larger firm right now, you may have never seen how trust accounting actually works, never worried about payroll or handled receivables or thought about business development. And that's okay. You probably never had to think about those things. That doesn't mean you can't do it. Not knowing does not disqualify you. It just means you need to shift how you think. It means you need a different mindset, a builder's mindset. So I'm asking you, are you feeling that gap right now? So let's talk honestly about the pros and cons, because mindset requires you to be realistic. So some of the pros: autonomy. It's not just about choosing your own schedule. It's choosing what kind of files you take, what kind of clients you work with, how you structure your day, what kind of culture you build. Another pro is the financial upside. It isn't just about making more money. It's about not having a ceiling placed on you, being rewarded for efficiency, and building something that has value. And maybe this is something that you want to sell in the future or leave as a legacy. Then there's flexibility. And it isn't just about leaving early. It's about designing a firm around your life instead of squeezing life into your firm. But here's the important part. Those benefits come from systems and discipline, not just from freedom alone. So if you're drawn to ownership, ask yourself, do I want freedom? Or do I want responsibility with freedom? Because there's a difference. You need to build something that's yours. Let's talk about a couple of the cons, or more accurately, let's call them responsibilities. They could be things like income variability, administrative burden. My tip I will give you is hire someone that is not part of the legal team to handle everything administrative. Decision fatigue is common, compliance pressure, and ultimately being the final decision maker, for now anyways. So some people are drawn to that. Some people are energized by that. Others are attracted to freedom, but not the responsibility that comes with it. And that's why clarity matters. Because if you're the only one thinking about the upside, you'll be surprised. If you're only thinking about risk, you will never move. Starting your firm is not about being fearless. It's about being informed. Often in year one, a new firm, those owners will have the mindset of survival, momentum, and client acquisition. By year 2 or 3, the mindset should shift to stability, systems, efficiency, and profit margin. I saw this transition happen in real time. That first year as a solo was very reactive. But by the third year, you should be asking yourself things like, how do we make this predictable? How do we reduce friction? How do we scale without burning out? And that shift doesn't happen automatically. It needs to happen intentionally. So where do you actually begin? You don't start with the software, the branding, or the logo. You have to begin with 3 initial layers of thinking. 1, your identity. Who are you as a lawyer? What kind of firm do you actually want? Not what looks impressive, not what your colleagues are doing, not even what your LinkedIn feed suggests. What fits your life? Second, you have to think about risk tolerance. What level of risk are you comfortable with? Some lawyers launch with savings. Some start one part-time. Some will build it gradually. Others will just jump fully in. There is no one right way. There's only the strategy that works for you. The next thing is support. What support would make this sustainable for you? And this is huge. You may not know how to manage a trust account, how to price things properly, how to set up systems, how to build processes for intake or sales. If you try to solve everything at once, you will overwhelm yourself. This does not mean you shouldn't start. It just means you shouldn't start alone. I've worked with lawyers who came from large firms and had never seen a billing system from the admin side, dealt with receivables, filed corporate documents themselves, or designed a sales and intake process. But within a year of going solo, they were handling client consultations, accounting questions, vendor relationships, marketing decisions. To me, that transition is significant. If you think you need to know everything before you start, you'll wait forever. If you assume you're just going to figure it out, you're going to feel overwhelmed. The better approach is know what you don't know. Decide what you must learn and decide what you must delegate. It's a much calmer place to start from. So if you're considering this path, I'd encourage you to reflect on the following questions. Do I want ownership or just relief? Am I prepared to make decisions? What gaps would I need to fill to feel steady? And if you're sitting in a firm right now thinking, I could do this differently, or I want more control, the question isn't, can I start my own law firm? The question that is better is, am I willing to become the kind of person who runs one? That's a growth mindset, and that's a decision. And that's why I say mindset matters first. So if any of this is landing with you and you're realizing you want more structured clarity, I've created a checklist about starting and building your own successful law firm. It's designed to help you organize your thinking before making major decisions. It's a high-level list, including the foundational things you will need, and includes some of those early decisions you're going to have to make. So you're not trying to piece it together from random places. So if you'd like it, please send me a DM that says checklist, and I'll send it over, and I will drop the links in the comment, the link to that checklist right now for you if anybody wants to go in there and grab it. Let's see. There you go. So next week, in part 2 of my series, we're going to talk about the fears that stop lawyers from going solo and how to tell the difference between a legitimate concern and avoidance. Now, if you want a deeper framework, I just recently wrote a book called Launching Your Own Law Firm in Canada, which expands on this in much more detail. What we've talked about today is just really the first layer of the conversation. We talked about where to begin, the mindset shift. Next week, we're going to talk about something that usually stops lawyers before they even get to this stage. Why most lawyers don't start their own law firm and which concerns actually matter. Because not all fears are equal. Some are legitimate, some are amplified, and if you don't sort them up, you'll keep being stuck. So if this conversation resonated with you, join me next week at the same time, and we'll go deeper into the fears you may have. For now, we're starting with clarity. You don't need to know everything. You need to know what you're deciding right now. For others, you may realize you'd prefer structured support. Either way, just start with the clarity. You don't need to know everything today. You don't need to decide it right now. You just need to think and be clear.